2019. My name is Kiersten Kral, and this is my 5th year at RYLA. My experience began in 2015 as a comparee. Although all that is thought to change throughout the years on job titles, there's a life-changing story hidden behind those sunglasses and that smile. I like to call it the path to there. January 14, 2017 was just another race day. Or so I thought. While running the 1,000 meters, I collapsed due to dehydration and landed strictly on my head. I blacked out for about 8 seconds, and when I opened my eyes, the life I once knew slowly vanished. This day would be the start to a never-ending fight for normalcy. Prior to my brain injury, I was a student athlete who ran cross-country, indoor track, and outdoor track. I ran anything from the 400 and up, as well as a steeplechase. I would lifeguard in the summers and shadow a local veterinarian. Weekend nights were either spent down the block at a campfire with my neighbors, doing homework, or sometimes I would jam out to some tunes in my room. I guess you could say my life was just like any other 17-year-old. As a senior, I was on track to run at UNH and major in biomedical veterinary sciences. But life doesn't always go as planned. I used to be a lot of things and be able to do a lot of things. I used to be that person who isn't the me today. Today, over 2 years into my journey, I experience post-concussion syndrome and fight constant symptoms. I suffer from a constant headache, countless migraine days, light, noise, motion, odor, and temperature sensitivities, dizziness, lightheadedness, fatigue, brain fog, low tolerance to all types of stimuli, nausea, neck pain, eye pain, vision deficits, dysautonomia, cognitive issues, and so on. I physically cannot function in life, which causes me to be unable to go to college and dependent on my family and doctors. My body is constantly fighting to survive, and things that used to be effortless are now things I greatly struggle with. For example, talking and listening during social visits has become very taxing on my body, causing an increase in all of my symptoms, which is why they don't happen too often, but when they do, I make sure to cherish each moment. That person who was jumping over water pits is now someone who can barely walk with their eyes closed. And when it comes to something as simple as standing, I constantly fidget my legs in order to keep myself from getting too dizzy. As I stand still, my blood pools, and symptoms increase, causing me to have to lay down to feel relieved. Anything that's done in an upright position, as you can imagine, is that much harder. Another impact is that my brain struggles with the ability to focus my eyes or recognize differences in depth, so my surroundings appear to move. This means, for example, a crowd or a place with patterned flooring or walls creates a debilitating wave of dizziness that encompasses my entire self. I don't just leisurely read a book, watch TV, or go hang out somewhere. Even basic car rides are very difficult. I cannot drive, let alone be a passenger for longer than 25 minutes without a break. And in such circumstances, I rely on my weighted blanket to help provide a little bit of stabilization. In many ways, this journey has become quite the learning curve. And I had to learn that less is more. In the worst of moments where I can't even get out of bed, envisioning my future dreams is just an unrealistic blur. There have been many days I have gone for a 10-minute walk, but each time I almost always ended up in bed the rest of the day, extremely dizzy and fighting off a migraine. They never got easier, despite how many times I tried. I recently went into a store, but I almost passed out after 15 minutes. There's some days where I can't even shower because I don't feel well enough. It's been difficult for me to change my mindset into less is more, but I realized that I first must be able to do the little things, which I've also had to accept are truly not so little for me. Things like making myself food, putting laundry away, and the basic necessities of living. If the old me could see my life now, she definitely wouldn't recognize it. Throughout my journey thus far, I've undergone different tests, therapy, and endless doctor's appointments. I did 6 months of neurooptometric and vestibular therapy, and even though I still have years' worth of healing left, I had to stop because I was continually getting worse. There's been a lot of trial and error with medications, trying to control the severity of my constant headache and weekly migraines. I have daily preventatives, monthly injections, and 33 Botox injections I receive every 3 months. Many people assume that I get better with each day, but that's not the case. My symptoms are invisible, a lot of times because I hide them, but also because they simply cannot be seen. Photos cannot speak, nor can they transmit feelings. There's always more to it than what you're reading, hearing, or seeing. Even in this moment, I truly cannot express all that I experience, so instead, I sketch you a rough draft as an attempt to give you a little glimpse into my hidden reality. Through all of this, I've lost what it feels like to feel normal. Many times, I have to remind myself that I am like a tree, because you cannot see the difference in growth when compared to the day before. But when you measure the height from day one to the present, you can see the difference. So despite each day filled with the same constant debilitating symptoms, I know that each moment is a step on the path to there. Recovery is far from a straight line, and looks more like this. This experience is a roller coaster that drops, flips, twists, and turns into my story. I believe that we all have a story to tell, yet we carry our scars differently. We all have the ability to allow our darkness become somebody's light. But in order to do so, we must become vulnerable. Vulnerability does not mean you have to be strong and pretend everything's okay. Being vulnerable means you choose to fight the fear and show your pain, with hopes that it can help heal, spark new conversation, and spread awareness, and make the lonely feel less alone. There's so many people fighting battles that cannot be seen, felt, nor heard. My goal is for you to not assume the reality of others based off their appearance. So I ask you to act with kindness, compassion, forgiveness, and a willingness to understand. You will learn that life is a masterpiece, painted by the colors of joy and pain and everything in between. And that all you need to do is keep painting. I learned to embrace the many textures and colors of my story, even amidst the days that I never want to relive, because I know it could always be worse. Everything I do comes at a price. It's a choice between listening to my body or trying not to miss out on absolutely everything. I try to make the best of it. Like when I put on my prom dress or cap and gown to take pictures with my friends, even though I couldn't attend either. I couldn't dance at prom, but I now choose to dance on whatever floor may be beneath me, because I learned that life in itself is simply just a dance. And when you dance, you don't try to get to a place in the room, but dance to enjoy the tune. Living the life that I am, I choose to have a best friend who builds me rather than tears me down. While I'm gratefully surrounded by those who support me, I'm talking about the best friend that lives within me and takes shape as my thoughts. You see, the thoughts we think create our reality. Although I don't have any good days like your good days, and my reality is filled with the undesirable, my thoughts create it into something beautiful. That being said, don't look at me and think I'm this perfect example of someone who doesn't face doubt, because I'm not, and quite frankly, no one is. But it's in those moments when the weight of my struggles are suffocating me that I begin to grow a greater willpower to carry on and find a deeper solace within me. In order to grow, I had to learn to find peace within the pain and comfort within the unknown. I had to learn to create my own light while facing the darkest of times. I had to learn the true power of positivity and the humbling act of gratitude, both which allow me to persevere like flowers that grow through the thickest of concrete. I also learned to embrace the now because it is then in which life unfolds. There were too many times in the past that I failed to realize the worth of a moment before it became a memory. So please understand that while you're trying to surf the waves of life, that wave could crash at any given moment, dragging you beneath with its unrelenting strength. My younger self, well, she didn't live each day or run each race like it was her last, because she always thought that there would be a next time. that there would be a next season or next year, but there wasn't. My world had to crumble for me to start viewing life in this light, but that doesn't mean yours has to. It might sound crazy, but I wouldn't trade my life for another because I get to share my journey and maybe become somebody else's hope. I ask you not to hide your real story and to be proud of the footsteps that you left behind, for they will be there to help teach and inspire others. I dare you to paint your masterpiece as I continue to paint mine while using all the colors and tools that life has given. Thank you for listening to my story. Now it's time for you to choose what you want to do with it. But before you go, I have a few more things to share. I want to start by telling you a brief story that I once heard. A story of little grasshopper and his master in a temple a long time ago. Grasshopper had to be trained in the deep parts of Buddhism. During training, the master took little grasshopper into the back of the temple to a room that is usually kept locked, and he asked grasshopper what he saw. Grasshopper said, "I see a pool." "But what else do you see?" said master. "Go closer, but don't get too close." Grasshopper slowly edged towards the pool. His eyes widened. "I see bones. Bones in the bottom of the pool." But Grasshopper also saw a plank of wood stretching from one end of the pool to the other. The master explained that that is not water, but concentrated acid. And those bones are from little novices like him who fell in. "In 7 days," said the master, "you will have to walk across that plank as part of your test." He then brought Grasshopper outside to the courtyard where there was another plank of wood, exactly the same length, width, and thickness as the one above the acid. This one was suspended 2 feet above the ground on 2 bricks. Grasshopper began practicing, and after just half a day, he could run across it, do it blindfolded and backwards, and even dance across it. After 7 days, the master took him back into the room to the plank suspended over the acid and told him to walk. Grasshopper could see the bones in the bottom of the pool, and as he walked, he wasn't as steady as he was in the courtyard. His knees started to shake a bit, and he began to sway. You know what happened? Well, I'm going to tell you, but in the meantime, I want to ask you who you are. But I'm afraid this question wouldn't take us far. We are born to feel as if we need a title. We grow up being asked what we want to be and are expected to say anything except, "I want to just be me." A doctor, a writer, a musician, an artist, a one-word answer is what society expects. But what if I told you the possibilities were limitless? You see, we are not defined by a job we choose to pursue. It's like society wrote us a deadline and told us when the definition of who we are is due. But who you are is composed of a million little things. For within us lives the universe and all that it brings. It's written in our souls and echoed within our mind. It is unaligned, undefined, and most importantly, unconfined throughout all of mankind. It's the thoughts we think, both consciously and unconsciously, and our response to our environment as it's forever changing, both horrendously and beautifully. It's our journeys through the unexpected experience and the way we live our life. It's our expressions like compassion and vulnerability, and the impact we have on those around us. It's the things that go undiscussed, like our scars that tell the stories of both familiar and untouched territories. Many people believe they don't have a choice in life, but they couldn't be farther from the truth. We do indeed live in an uncontrollable world where tomorrow is not guaranteed, and each changing season we hope that our favorite tree once again turns green. I'm here to remind you that within the unpredictable are things that are controllable. Like your attitude when you wait and realize you're running late, or your negative response to the unexpected that causes you to feel anger and hate. Please hear me when I say that no matter the day, you can choose which way you want to sway. To be positive or negative, happy or angry. To agree to disagree and walk away without the urge to fight. To smile in the darkness and continue to hope that one day you will find the light. To be grateful when you have nothing and patient when you want something. The ability to realize there's always a choice gives you a voice within the unheard and a perspective that cannot be deterred. It's proven that thought alone can change the brain, because neurons that fire together wire together. So it's up to you to decide how you want to change. Once you understand this, you must find your why. The reason to your words and the cause of the wind beneath your wings as you try to fly. But don't confuse this with finding a purpose. This is living with intention instead of living just to die. But why do you exist? We think that an answer will give us a purpose to live. That if we find a purpose, we will have something to give. But the fish of the deep blue sea and the birds landing in the highest of trees are not looking for a purpose, but simply existing with intention. What if the meaning of life is just to be? That being alive is nothing more than what's found on the inside. But sadly, not many people are living while they're alive. And to their grave, they carry regret of all the things they didn't do because they chose to allow their what-ifs and doubts become a threat and let life slip right through. Listen, life isn't easy. It will knock you down and leave you bleeding. But with that, you can choose to give up or choose to keep on believing. We must become the best versions of ourselves, rather than trying to be better than anyone else. I believe we must be rich in life, but this doesn't live in status, for money is worthless. You must be rich with feelings and experience. It's about how much you loved and laughed, and all the times you rose above after all the times you failed. It's all the days you've healed after the many moments you've cried. And the endless lessons you once learned that told you where to turn. It's about how much of the world you welcomed within and how much to the world you breathlessly chose to give. For all of that is priceless. I do know that in a world so large, you might feel powerless, but you do indeed have the power to make a difference. Get this. One seed can grow one flower, but from that flower can grow multiple seeds. And those multiple seeds can grow into multiple flowers. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's as simple as cause and effect. And before you know it, your impact will triple. just how one drop in the ocean is all it takes to create a ripple. Your attitude and actions have an impact on those around you. Don't you think for 1 second that this isn't true. Our space is filled by the energy you unknowingly release, whether that be negativity, which depletes, or positivity, which increases a loving peace. I understand we all have our differences. Society likes to assume they lie in our gender orientation or the color of our skin, but that's not what different truly is. For it's the million little things deep within. I want you to embrace your individuality. Take down your mask and face reality. I want you to stop painting judgment on others, for it is not up to you to determine their colors. It's scary to be you, but you are the only you, and I promise that is true. Go chase after the dreams that were denied. You didn't come this far only to see the world without your eyes opened wide. You will fail many times again and be faced with doubt every now and then, but no mountain was ever built smooth. So brace through the worst and hang on tight. But whatever you do, don't give up this fight. If you're still at the mountain, begin today. If you're still at the base of the mountain, begin today and don't be chained by fear. For you never know if your end is near. Do you remember the grasshopper story I told in the beginning? I left off asking if you knew what happened. Well, grasshopper fell in. Do you know what the master did? He laughed. Grasshopper began splashing around and realized he wasn't burning. And that's when the master said, "Little grasshopper, it's not acid, it's water. We just threw the bones in for special effects, that's all." So what pushed grasshopper in? Fear. Fear pushed him in. For if he knew it was just water below him, he would have ran across it, just as he did in the courtyard. You see, in life, it's fear. The what-ifs, doubts, and the uncontrollable, which pushes us in and keeps us from reaching our full potential. But we mustn't live in fear. We mustn't let that fear, the struggles, or society keep us confined. We mustn't wait for life to unwind. We must let go and live undefined. We mustn't go looking for something to find, because all we will ever need is found on the inside. So will you choose to see a pool of water, or choose to see a pool of acid? Will you tell yourself tomorrow, or next time, or next year, or tell yourself today? Because if not now, then when? Will you rely on others to make a difference, or choose to be the difference? Because if not you, then who? And what will you do the next time someone asks, "Actually, I'm going to ask, who are you?" Thank you. You guys are open to ask any questions you need, if you want to. Does anyone have any questions? Don't be afraid. I'm very open to opening. You won't hurt me, it's okay. Some back there. Yeah.
If you could just say the question kind of loud, and I'm going to repeat it in the microphone.
When did you realize that you could use your story to help other people? And what inspired you to do that?
Do you want to repeat it? So I'll jump in here.
So the question was, when did Kiersten use her story to inspire other people?
I first shared my story, I would say, a few months after my injury, and I put it out there just so when I went back for the first half a day of school, I wasn't in there much, so people kind of knew what happened because I wasn't up to answering questions. And once I did that, I kind of realized that it gave me a little bit of a platform to share something that people were not familiar with. And then I started getting feedback from people like you guys sitting here and letting me know that this is something that can help change other people. So that helped make me realize that I can, be vulnerable and I can show my pain, and everything that I'm going through can maybe help someone else, even if a brain injury is something that you're not familiar with. So I decided that I'm just gonna put it out there, and even if I just change one life or one person, it's worth it. So. Anyone else?
I kind of wanted to know what happened to your brain. Did it start swelling?
So during a concussion, if you can imagine a bowl of jello, the jello being your brain and the bowl being your skull. So when my head hit the ground, the jello, aka my brain, hit against all the sides of my skull, causing my neurons, which if you're not familiar with the neurons are kind of imagine a spider web. So imagine neurons this huge intricate web inside your brain that basically makes you who you are. It controls your thoughts and your processing, your motor skills, everything. When my head hit, those neurons got disrupted. And usually with people with concussions or brain injuries, that happens, and the neurons will find their patterns, and they will they will find the patterns that they were in, and they'll fix themselves, they'll heal. But what happened to me is my brain did not heal properly. So the neurons that were knocked off course, that are not where they were, or the ones that died, they have not found their way back to where they're supposed to be. So the electrical stimulation that's supposed to be going on in those places is not firing how it's supposed to fire, if that makes sense. So that's basically what happened to me. So when my head hit the ground, my neurons got disrupted, which causes all of my symptoms.
Is there ever a chance that they'll go back to the pattern that they were in, it'll fix itself?
So, yes, I think they used to believe that the brain couldn't heal, and they would say okay, you have a brain injury, you have a concussion, that's it, good luck. But now there are a lot more studies, a lot more research on the brain and the neurons themselves that show that they can heal. It's something called neuroplasticity, which means the neurons can change themselves and they can make new pathways. So yes, there is a hope. The way it's done, they say it's time that no brain injury or concussion is the same. And if you're confused by concussion, brain injury, a concussion is a brain injury, but not all brain injuries are concussions. So just to clarify, but so the way I can heal my brain is through repeated patterns. So therapy. So let's just say, for example, the issues with my eyes. There are specific exercises that I did. I'm not doing right now because I was getting worse, but there are specific exercises that I did with my eyes that triggered those neurons in that spot that controlled my eyes to fire even though like it made me very symptomatic. But just the act of me using those neurons, trying to fire them, helps build the pathway, or that's what they hope. But everyone's different, so. How does my family respond to it? They've been very supportive, definitely very supportive. I would say for me personally, it's harder on them than it is on me because I am the one experiencing the symptoms. Sorry, Mom. I'm the one experiencing the symptoms, and you know, like when I'm in pain, I can lie down in a dark room, and that's the way of me just trying to like control the severity of my pain. But like my mom can't control my pain. She can't control the severity of what I'm experiencing. So I think for them, it's like it's a lot more out of their control than it is mine. So they've been very supportive, but it's definitely been hard to watch me go from what I was to doing what I am now and experiencing all that I am and all that I can't do. But yeah.
What caused like the severe hydration that made you pass out?
So I actually had like a little bit of diarrhea the day before my race. Being a distance athlete, like I've ran under a lot worse conditions. So I was like, I hydrated, I drank my Gatorade, so I was like, I'm fine, like whatever. I didn't even tell my mom. And then like the next morning, I still had a little bit of diarrhea, but I was just like, I'm fine, like it's whatever. And I felt okay, but I think just under the circumstances, my body did not have enough time or enough electrolytes in it to replenish itself. And with just me exerting energy and it was hot in there, I think it was just the perfect storm that just caused me to collapse. But yeah, I don't recommend exercising after having bad diarrhea, just saying. Oh.
What was the next step you were to take in terms of path to recovery or just to continue with?
So right now, we've been on like migraine and headache control, because we think that is what's been causing me to not improve, because the therapy I did for 6 months, usually you get better. From the start, I was just very slow improving, and then I got worse, and then got a lot worse, and like I couldn't even tolerate the things I did on the first day of therapy, which is not normal. So we thought it was like maybe my inner ear, we thought maybe it was my neck, we thought a lot of different things. We still don't know exactly what, because like there's no test to tell me like what exactly is wrong, so it's kind of just like in the air about things. But right now we're doing just migraine control with the medications and trying to focus on dysautonomia, which is dysregulation of the autonomic nervous system, which the ANS controls the things that you don't think about. So your breathing, blood circulation, heart rate, blood pressure, things like that. And for me, that system for me is all out of whack. And my blood pressure goes too low, my blood doesn't circulate, my heart rate goes too high, or things like that. So focusing on that, there's no cure to it. There's medication that can help raise my blood pressure, which I'm on, and I'm also trying to ride the stationary bike, which is hopefully to help build my endurance some. So I started at 3 minutes, I'm now at 10 minutes, so it's a very slow moving thing, but right now that's our plan, to try to build a tiny bit of tolerance, but in a way that doesn't make me worse, because we realize that I am overly sensitive than a normal concussion patient or post-concussion syndrome. Everyone's different though, but yeah, that's basically what our plan of action is right now.
Have you met anybody or know of anybody that have the same symptoms as you?
When I was in therapy, there was one other person there was another person in there that I met who had like post-concussion syndrome type symptoms, but we were pretty different. This person could drive and do some things, like I can't drive. So like everyone's different, but I think we still had like baseline, still same symptoms, like the headache, the dizziness, the nausea. But I think over, like on Instagram, like over my social media, I've connected with people with brain injuries just from sharing my story and them sharing their story. So I've met people like that who are in a similar boat than I am, that it's been, some of them, it's been 8 years, and they're still how I am today, and facing this post-concussion syndrome, going through so many doctors and so many tests, and they're kind of just like stuck in the stagnant, and like no one knows how to help them, because this post-concussion syndrome thing is kind of like up and coming, and we're just kind of like realizing that it's a thing and that it exists and it needs treatment and like not just rest. So yeah, I've definitely met some people, mostly over like social media, who are in a similar boat, different but similar.
Where do you see yourself in the future?
In the future, honestly, I kind of just want to just be the best. This is a little corny, but like I really just want to be like the best me I can be, because like I don't really try to hold any expectations, because like, you know, there's always the what ifs of what happened, and like I don't really like those. I don't let those what ifs affect me. So I just kind of live now. But I think in the future, I mean, there's things I want to do in the future. I think I want to just become the best me I want to be. But like in the future, I just want to explore things that I haven't seen. Maybe use my story to help other people. Maybe do something medically. Build a van and live in it. But yeah, really just trying to focus on the now. I'm not really worried about the future. It is what it is, and I'm happy, so.
If you could talk to yourself immediately after your accident, what would you say?
Slow down and listen to your body. When I first hit my head, I was like, it's a concussion, I'll be fine. I literally 2 days after my concussion, I had a PT appointment for my ankle, and I was like, I'm fine, like I'm gonna go. I went, almost passed out a few times, clearly super out of it, not okay, and that was like the first moment I was like, okay, maybe I'm not okay. But I honestly would tell myself, like, listen to your body. And I'm still learning to listen to my body. I'm not good at that. I like to ignore my symptoms, just push myself. But if I could tell myself, like right when I hit my head, like I would just be like, look, just, you don't need to try to get back for sections. You don't need to try to run again. Like just let yourself heal. Let yourself just do what it needs to do to be able to heal. Like school, whatever, like I was barely in school after hitting my head, but I was so focused on trying to get to school that I wasn't focusing on like how severely affected I actually was until everything started building up and building up. And then I was getting worse and worse and worse instead of getting better. But yeah, no, I definitely tell myself to just like slow down, listen to your body, and just trust the process that it'll be okay.
Are you feeling any pain right now?
Do you want the honest answer? Like the actual, like honest, all the answers of everything? So yeah, I would say my head really hurts, very pressurized, I'm pretty dizzy. Vision is definitely not clear, very like wavy-ish. My voice, if you I don't know if you can tell, but like my voice is deeper and slower. So like my words, like I'm trying to get words out, they're not coming out as well as they should. So like I'm trying my best not to slur my words, but it might happen. And like I'm just like, yeah. So every symptom, that nausea, the dizziness, that voice you hear, like my words, my processing, everything that I mentioned, everything like that is like full blown here, which is why I'm just like half awake sitting, and after this I'll just like lay down. And it'll probably take me like a week or two to recover. But it's okay.
Which symptoms do you like experience the most?
Everything is constant. I would say the problems with my eyes never go away. I can never focus on anything. So imagine like, do you know like that feeling when you're first waking up and like your vision's like kind of blurry and like you can't like focus on one thing? That's like my vision all the time. And if I try to focus on something, my brain physically cannot actually focus on something, maybe for like a split second, but when I do, I get like this extreme wave of dizziness where I feel like I'm gonna pass out. But the most symptoms are like obviously the dizziness, like I said, and with standing, being upright. Like whenever I sit up, like I'm dizzier. And my headache is constant. Neck pain's constant. So I think those are like the biggest ones, and the migraines that put me down and out for at least like 2 times a week or so.
How did you learn to cope with your situation?
It's a good one. In the beginning, the way I coped was focusing on running. Like I couldn't run, but I tried to say like, all right, I've been injured for 7 weeks. I'll make it back in a few weeks. I'll be able to run. Oh, I'll be able to run next month. Oh, maybe I'll be able to run next month. So I kept telling that to myself in the beginning. So that kind of like kept me motivated, being like, I'll be able to run. I'll be able to run. And then now it's more just realizing that the future, whatever it may be, I can't control it, and that who I am and what I am is a lot of it is like my consciousness and the energy that's around me, and I try to just be present and let things be. And if I'm having a bad moment, I'm human. We're all human. I'm not saying like we can't feel sad, we can't feel frustrated, we can. It's just about knowing when to pull yourself up and when to just tell yourself, I just gotta keep going. Just gotta keep going. And it definitely helps knowing that, like I'm not the only one in the situation, and there's so many people just talking about like invisible disabilities or things like that. There's so many people suffering from things that cannot be seen, whether it be depression or anxiety or brain injuries, all spectrums of things that can't be seen. And I know that I'm not the only one going through a hard time, so why do I want to spend my time pitying myself when I can just choose to be happy? Because it's hard enough as it is feeling not great that if I were to feel bad for myself, it would just make it 10 times worse. So I just kind of had that realization that this is something I can control, this is something I could make better about my situation. So that realization of positivity and choice definitely helps me continue on. And the support around me.
So in the video, I think you mentioned that your eyes swell. Why is that?
I don't think I said my eyes swell. Maybe the dizziness with my eyes, or they can't focus. Pressure in the eyes. Oh, the ice packs? Yes, no, I definitely had ice packs on my head. That's a good point. There's definitely an ice pack like on my head or my eyes. I use that to help with the pain. So I'm definitely have an ice pack with me today, and I'll probably put that like on my neck or on my eyes. And so usually the ice packs are just on like the target pain areas.
We have time for one more question.
What was it like coming to RYLA today?
Home. It was like home. Because I know I'm surrounded by everyone who loves me and who's there's people in the audience who knew me, who I was before I hit my head, and who I am now. So I think that coming today was just kind of like, don't cry. Oh, I think make me cry. That coming here today was just a realization that there's people around me helping me make the difference, that it's not just me. Like, I can tell my story all that I want, but it won't make a difference unless you choose it to make it, unless you choose to allow it to make a difference. And I know that I have people around me here that are going to allow it to make a difference, and that definitely just makes me feel loved. And I know they know I love them too. So definitely home. A lot of home here. Oh. Okay. All right. Thank you guys.